All right. Welcome to another Midwest Mindset with Paul Tyson, Brett Garshinsky, and
Am I supposed to say
Eric
my name?
Page.
Eric
We've got
Page.
we
Okay.
didn't rehearse it at all. We've
not
got
at
a
all.
guest
We
on
didn't rehearse
today.
it.
No. We've got a guest on today, guys. It's my brother-in-law, Eric Page. We're very happy to have Eric on.
Our
Thank you
first
for making
guest.
time. Yes, or E Page, as
Yeah,
it would say on his license plate in high school.
yeah, that's true.
If we're gonna unpack things, there we go. No,
E
E
Page.
is. We are super happy to have him here. My brother-in-law, I've learned a lot from him. Eric, I wanted to just kind of introduce you, but if you can tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from originally, like how, this is going to be about fatherhood. We're talking about
Yeah.
fatherhood this month, and just wanted to kind of go ahead, E.
Yeah,
I'll pass it
well,
over
I'm
to you.
I'm happy to be here with you guys, Paul. It's good to like I said in the lead up, good to put a face with a voice. Long time listener. I was just telling BJ's sister Molly, my wife, that when I'm on a flight for work, which is frequently, I typically have this as one of my downloads that I listen to. So I've been a fan of the show. I think you guys do a great job. Little bit about my background. I grew up in River Falls, Wisconsin, just across the river from the Twin Cities.
Yeah.
I have a 14-year-old daughter who's a freshman in high school, an 11-year-old son who's in fifth grade. I've been married to BJ's sister Molly for almost 20 years. And yeah, BJ, I'm a little, I don't know if hurt is the right word, but I would say brother-in-law and friend.
Yeah.
Because I tell people all the time, if I had met you outside the bounds of being married to your sister, that you'd be one of my best friends in the world. So happy to be here for the conversation today.
Hey, thanks a lot, Paul. What do you think about that? Huh? That's a
Well,
brother-in-law for you. What a nice guy.
I think it's great, and let's unpack a little bit of the story. So I call you Brett just because I knew Brett, from a work relationship, and then we became really good friends. And once again, I'm not a brother-in-law, so I can't get to sit across the table at Thanksgiving meal like you do, Eric. But what's the BJ Brett? I've heard. What's the other one? There was a third nickname there too, Brett.
Well, Beach.
Beach. All right. So let's unpack that, Eric, first and foremost.
Well, Paul, I'd like to think about it a little bit like a mullet, where Brett is the business in the front and BJ is the party in the back. And Brett is very intensely serious, and when you're getting into Brett space. BJ's probably more fun to hang out with on a weekend.
Oh, get out of here.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Hey, when I'm in the arena, I'm in the arena. All right.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I look at it. And
yeah,
Eric actually, Eric is, I was telling Paul this, we talk a lot, and I consider you one of my best friends. And we're only a year apart, so it worked out really well. And I still remember at my oldest sister's wedding, going up to Eric, I was semi intoxicated and just saying, "All right, Eric, you can marry my sister. It's fine."
I remember.
And a seal of approval. And there it was. I mean, a relationship was born. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Which I never even, I then never even asked your dad for permission to propose to you.
You didn't have to.
That was all I needed was BJ's stamp.
You didn't have to. You didn't have to. But Eric did, you've been a writer. He started out as a sports writer with the Eau Claire Leader. You guys moved from Eau Claire down to Iowa.
Yep.
And you were a writer there. I was telling him you were one of the voters for the AP poll for college football and college basketball, was it?
Just college football. Yep.
Just college football. But and then you took on, you went to the university route and started working at Augustana. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I tell people I've sold my soul twice in my career. I left journalism for PR, and then I left campus side PR for consulting. And now I went from Augustana College to the University of Iowa. I spent some time in the central marketing office there and the admissions office. And now I work for a marketing agency that's based in Boston. But we've got remote people all over the country. It's called Carnegie. And we work exclusively with colleges and universities, helping them market themselves to prospective students and message to alumni and things like that.
Wow. So that's awesome. I didn't know. So we were going through some of your bio. I didn't know Augustana. My son just committed to play baseball at Augustana.
So Augustana in South Dakota or Augustana in Illinois?
Oh, sorry. Oh, South Dakota.
Okay. Yeah. See, I was the one in Illinois, although they were founded, I think like 165 years ago as like the same institution and then split.
Okay.
I think Augsburg was actually in on that too in Minnesota. That's your Cliff Clavin knowledge for the day.
There you go.
But,
That's awesome. Sorry, go ahead.
Can I kind of talk about the Brett BJ thing quick?
Yeah.
Can I? Yeah. Okay. So, and the reason why I bring up all the writer and the very he's just very good writer, and he gave me my senior year of college a picture of me actually, and a kind of a cool. He took the picture too.
I had forgotten that.
It was framed, and it says, and it's the man in the arena quote that's right, like kind of to the side. And I took it with me all over the place, and it was an awesome thing. Obviously pretty selfish. So it's a picture of me sitting up in my apartment, right? Look at me, look at me.
That's probably mentally healthy, actually.
It probably is, yeah. But it was the man in the arena quote. So when people say the Brett BJ thing, I'm like, well, Brett, I'm in the arena. When I'm in the arena, it was like, even in college, like, don't talk to me on game day, because I'm not in a good space. I'm mentally preparing. I'm focused. And then when 5 o'clock hits, according to Eric, I turn into BJ, and then it's like, hey, let's just chill. Let's have some fun. It's a casual intensity. It's a casual intensity is the only way I can look at it. But
so yeah. I've heard both, BJ and Brett's version, and then Eric's. I like Eric's. The mullet analogy works a little bit better for me. It's easier for me to remember. Love it.
He's a wordsmith. He's way better than I am with that. Yeah. But no, we should pivot here. Let's get into some fatherhood stuff. You're a great dad. I know you're a great dad. I've learned a lot from you. The question I'll start with is, did you always know you wanted to be a dad? Is this something growing up you were like, yeah, I'm going to be a dad. I know it. And go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Because I think I'm maybe surprised in adulthood and fatherhood of how many people maybe didn't have that in their plans or didn't have their sights set on that and aren't quite sure how they feel about it. I always knew from a very young age. I have lots of cousins who were younger than me, and I would babysit them when I was in middle school and high school. I was sort of a like Pied Piper type person with I always knew that I wanted to be a dad. And when I became a father, I was, you're overwhelmed by the emotion, you're overwhelmed how you feel and how much you can love something that you have not yet really gotten to know. But I knew that I wanted that from a very young age.
Yeah. Paul, questions on that at all?
No, I think that, that's so interesting because, I have a friend that's a comedian that, I've talked to him about this, but he had a joke in his routine once. He said, I always said I wanted to be a dad. I always wanted to be a dad. And then he said, then they started, then we had kids, and then turns out I want to be an uncle. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like an uncle, so I could have kids. And he's kidding, of course. He loves being a father, and he's very much like yourself, Eric. But it's interesting. So what led you to be that way? Like is it something with your upbringing, your relationship that you had with your father, or can you tell us a little bit more on why that is?
Yeah, I think it's definitely not that. But maybe, that's maybe too harsh. I think
without getting too personal. Sorry.
Yeah, no. I mean, we're here to get personal. I think I'm okay with that. I think we are all on our journey in parenthood trying to either replicate or correct something, or some things, or a pattern of things in our lives. And it's probably both, and for all of us. And sure. I have some very amazing core memories with my dad and with my parents, and things that my dad instilled in me, kind of a sense of adventure, a love of the outdoors, a spontaneity for life experience that I have tried to replicate in my parenting and my fatherhood. And then definitely some things that I wish, maybe were different with my relationship with my dad, that I am definitely trying to make different for my daughter and son. And I think that's how we all, try to change generational whatever is in our history. But That's the
Okay.
answer.
Gotcha.
No, that works.
Do you-
That works. Thanks.
Yeah. Is there anything like I know having a boy and a girl, is there a difference in the way that you parent each one of the children? Because being and I will say this, like with our 6-year-old and their 3-year-old, with Lewis and Greta, it was like I was trying the same tactics with Greta that were not working at all early on, and completely different kids. And that was it dawned on me one day, and it was like a snap of a moment. I'm like, oh, well, I gotta pay more attention to what she, the clues, the signals that she's sending me. You've noticed that, I'm sure, yourself. And can you give us any tips, any secrets that work for you in parenting each kid's kind of separately? Or
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's an individual, and Savannah, my daughter who's 14, and Joey, my son who's 11, are no different. And we've had to learn as we go, like you're talking about with Greta and Lou. Savannah is an open book. She will dump emotion on you and talk about what's on her mind till, middle of the night. And Joey, you kind of got to pull it out of him and ask questions and dig into it, and then he will unleash. In fact, Molly, when he was in kindergarten, he would come home and not tell us a lot about his day, and he kind of struggled to make friends initially. He's really tall and really big, and he kind of stuck out and didn't connect with people. And he was bummed about it, but he wouldn't talk about it until he got in the bathtub. And then Molly would like sit on the toilet next to the bathtub. We called it bathtub confessions, and he would unload on her. Whereas Savannah would like come home and just pour her heart out to you in the moment. So yeah, I think you figure it out and you find the right sort of mode of connection with each of your children. And I don't think there's a right way, a wrong way.
Right.
It's just if you're making the connection.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's so funny to hear you say that, Eric. First of all, I love that bathtub confessions. That could be like BJ said that you're a writer. Maybe that's a title of a kid's book. Bathtub confession. That's the title.
Yeah.
That's excellent. But what's so funny about that, when I hear you say that, more importantly, I get to sit back as Brett was asking that question and watch you light up as soon as you started talking about it. Like you were individually like, all right, you're putting Savannah, you're like, all right, when Savannah came home, it was this. But, when my son, came home, is it Joey? Or,
Yep.
like literally, like we had to wait. And then there was this moment. But when that moment happened, it was like, and so I always go back to almost like that Vince Vaughn scenario of like, I don't know, we're going to make some mistakes. Let's go make some bad decisions, like he says in a lot of his movies. Like as parents, we don't know what's right or wrong. And to your point, they are individuals. And so the more we just like, we learn, we make mistakes and we figure it out and we find out what works best for each kid. Right.
Yeah. And I think one thing that has really helped too. I mean, Molly and I are really active partners in our parenting and have been for 14 years. And we debrief, we talk about things ahead of time. We talk about things after time. We're not critical of each other in the moment for the most part. We try not to undermine each other in the moment when we're dealing with something with the kids. But then we unpack it later. And as Savannah has grown into a young woman, it's funny, in 8th grade, she had an assignment, or no, not 8th grade, 7th grade, she had an assignment during virtual school to write a letter to somebody, and she chose me to write a letter to. And I have it pinned up on the bulletin board in my office, and it's all about our special connection and our relationship that she values so much, but how she recognizes that is evolving and is going to evolve as she grows into a woman. And it's like, and she says in the letter, she's like, I never want you to take it personally that maybe I'm closer to mom on some things, and maybe I talk to mom more about some things.
She's such a great kid.
That's honestly, I mean, it's hard for me, to recognize that maybe she doesn't want to talk to me about something. Now that said, there's a lot of things that maybe a typical 14-year-old young woman doesn't talk to her father about that she does talk to me about, which I really appreciate and lean into. But then, I'll have to circle back with Molly and be like, hey, what are you hearing from Savannah? And Molly will fill me in. And I'm sure it will work that way with Joey as he ages into that window of his life.
Yeah.
That's an area that I kind of tug on that string a little bit. Like, and Paul and I have talked about this, and the first relationship that your kids see are husband and wife or partners. Right? I mean, wife and wife or husband and husband or whoever it may be. Yep. Are there, and those, like, that is awesome that you guys don't undermine each other in front of the kids and you debrief later. Did that take some work? Like, was that a process? Because I do watch you guys as parents, and Leah and I talk about it, like how you guys are just really fine tuned, and you can tell you're on the same page. Is there like a core values that you guys bring to the family? Like, is there something that you like not even, I don't know if they're like a template. Obviously, you can't have that, but you mean like core values. Like, I feel like you guys have mentioned to me before.
Well, we at one point we drew up a model for the kids that we communicated to them, and it's 4 quadrants of essentially our core values, I think, as a family.
Yes.
And I hope I don't forget one. It's honesty, trust, kindness, and respect. And we talk about how we weight those in our relationship with each other and how we weight those in our relationship with our kids. And I think this is, I don't know if I would say fatal flaw, but something I've observed in the way people parent. And I'm sure you both experience this in your adult lives as parents, that I think this is related to this. It's really hard to make friends when you're an adult and when you're a parent, because there's so many variables that go into it, and you're so busy. You've got your lives, your jobs, your kids' activities and things, and you want to have time for your spousal relationship and your kids. And it's just hard to find friendships that work across, the husband and wife connect, the wife and husband connect, everybody. And then the parenting style comes into it when you're hanging out as families. And I see so many people who parent their children with fear. And that is like the core of it. Like, you are going to fear me because I'm your father, and that's the end of the story. To me, that will never work. It's got to be respect and mutual respect, and I will respect you if you respect me. And we talk a lot about that. And then, of course, honesty and kindness. Like, we don't tolerate lying, period, end of story. Tell us the truth, even if it's a bad truth. Be kind to other people, no matter what. And I think that's been a good framework, that leads into a lot of other things. And BJ, to your point, like, I by no means want to give the impression that we don't ever undermine each other in the moment. We try not to. Yeah.
Right.
And
the intent, right, is not to undermine each other.
Yep. And I think we have a loop of continuous improvement in our relationship that at times is more active than others. And just so happens we're probably in a moment of active continuous improvement right now, where we're like talking about things and trying to work on things.
Right.
Yeah. It's the beginning of the year too. I mean, like, what can we do differently starting the year? It's a great time.
Ooh. Yeah. And just, if I could piggyback on that, it sounds like, what I hear you saying is that, you come with that general curiosity that you're like, hey, this is what I'm hearing from Savannah. Are you hearing the same thing, or am I misreading this too? Right. Like, checking in, I think, is the value of that is huge.
A lot of it is like, I said this to her. Do you think that was the right thing? She's saying this. And I think that society, and this is probably harsher on women than it is on men. I think mothers, especially young mothers, when they're new mothers, society really teaches them to second guess and to not be sure of themselves, and fathers too. I have always had sort of a, like, I don't give a shit attitude about that. Like, I'm very, if you can be confident and then be humbled by the same thing, that to me has been like my journey on fatherhood. Like, I've been pretty confident that I've been a good dad and confident in my decisions in the moment. And I've made a lot of mistakes in it that have humbled me in that process. But I have a hard time second guessing the actions I take as a father.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Because that I will do the opposite sometimes, where it's like, oh man, like, you've got this road or this road, and it's like, I went down this road. Should I have gone down this road? Should I? And I can't think of an example right now, but it's like, you just, where you sit there, and then that's what wakes you up at 2:00 in the morning. Sometimes it's like, oh man. And I think Molly's probably very similar to me in that, where my twin with longer hair,
better looking,
way better looking. Yeah. Not a good beard though. She's got to work on that. So yeah, but I respect the hell out of you for that, because he's a very confident dad. He's just, and you can see it in Joey too. You can definitely see it in Joey and his confidence and his ability to you said in kindergarten he wasn't able to meet friends or meet people. Well, now he's a Pied Piper at school, and I've heard plenty of stories about kids coming to him and saying, well, Joey doesn't know the answers, or going to the teacher even and saying, well, if Joey doesn't know the answer, then this, like, it's that hard. Like it's impossible if Joey can't do it. But that puts pressure on him too, to be the perfectionist in a way. And that can't be easy either. So how do you balance kids having a struggle, helping them, but not helping them too much, if that makes any sense? Don't steal my struggle. I think I've heard you guys say that before too.
Yep, that's a big thing that Molly drew from some reading that she has done, and I think that is core to parenting and applicable at any stage of their life. They could be 42, and we could.
Tell me more about that though. What do you mean? Don't steal my struggle. What is that?
You got to let them fail. You got to let your kids skin their knees, right, metaphorically and in reality.
Right.
In fact, my daughter, math in middle school and high school is a journey, right? Like we aren't necessarily able to reach back to our knowledge and help with that.
Right.
And I always tell her, like, listen, I don't care if you get straight A's. I don't care what grades you get. I don't care if you fail a test, as long as you circle back and figure out where the knowledge gap was and what you need to learn, especially with something like math where you have to stack it, into other things.
Totally.
And I think there's that balance of encouragement without intense pressure. We see that in everything. The activities, my son is big into youth sports, and man, you see a gamut of parental behavior in that. Where you have to encourage and give them the space to fail, and then help them learn from their failure.
So I would love to pull that apart. So you talked about two things. So what I heard you just say is talk about youth sports, and we know kind of the extreme. And what I just realized, by the way, all of us have a boy and a girl, all three of us.
Oh yeah.
So I do, but I'm a little bit older than you guys, and my kids are a little bit older. I have a senior and a sophomore. But it's interesting because going through the gamut of being involved in youth sports and seeing all that, you mentioned on that a lot of people parent on fear, or the stories that they used to tell themselves. How I was raised. This is how my dad. He told me this is what I do, and we always talk about trying to make it a little bit better for her. So how do you do that? How do you manage that with confidence? To your point, Eric, in that scenario where, I don't know how far you're into the youth sports piece or whatever, but when you interact with parents that are doing that,
I think you got to have a recognition that you had your day. Like, I was an athlete and I enjoyed that window of my life, and I succeeded and I failed. And I'm one of the most competitive people that I have ever met. But what I observe in other fathers, especially, is this intense engagement and intense, what's the right word? Derivation, like where they pull a lot of value in personal value from their son or daughter's accomplishments and achievements, whether that be sports or show choir or school activities, whatever. It's like a reflection on them. And this is Joey's show. Like, this is Joey's time, and he's going to succeed and fail and have his passions and things or not. And I am simply along for the ride to encourage and support and help steer him. But if he wins, if he loses, if he hit his first 3-pointer ever in a game last night, in a basketball game, and the look on his face, he was so excited. Like, he's big. He's like not a post player because he's 11, but like he plays a lot inside. So he doesn't. I think it was the first three. It was the first 3-pointer I've ever seen him shoot in a game. And he looks over at me on the bench, and he's like so excited. And after the game, he's got this smile on his face, and like, that's his moment. And if he would have missed, or if they would have lost the game, they happened to win the game. But they're looking for approval. They're looking for affirmation and support. And I watch so many dads when their kid strikes out, I saw a dad at a basketball tournament physically shaking his son outside the gym, screaming in his face because he had airballed a free throw. Like, the language he was using, and it was to the point where, like, I should have, in retrospect, said something, but I'm like, oh, do I really want to engage in a physical altercation with this guy?
Right.
But there's so much of that intensity and toxic masculinity in the way, especially for young boys. And all the young boys do is learn to hate the sport, learn to hate their fathers, and learn to then replicate that toxic masculinity in their lives later on.
Ripple
which-
effect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And
There's no
I
change
go
in the
back.
pattern. Yeah.
Yep. I go back all the time. I think it's an Oprah Winfrey quote or somebody who was a guest on Oprah talking about parenting. And it's like, how do you react in a moment when your kid is like making a bid for like attention to you? And
Yeah.
does your face light up, or are you put out, are you too busy, or are you like engaged in something else? And Molly and I both have really actively tried to, like, if they've got something they want us to see or want us to show, that we light up, that becomes a very important thing. And I think they draw a lot of personal value from that and kind of build confidence of their own. That was sort of a long winding answer. I don't know.
No, it's beautiful.
No,
Makes a lot of sense.
I think it's, I mean, I think in a roundabout way. So I loved everything you said, but in a roundabout way, what I hear you saying is that your actions, hopefully are picked up by other people, because you can control, like, if that dad is doing that. I mean, if there's an opportunity to throw a suggestion in, fine. But otherwise, hopefully your kids are seeing the way that you want to be represented as a father.
We've been very lucky, actually, and we've been pretty choosy about the teams that we have our son play on and coaches we have our son play for. And we have a great basketball team with a great group of parents, a great group of kids that do not emphasize winning over all else. Same with our baseball team. We don't really tolerate the parents screaming at the officials in the stands. We don't tolerate the parents screaming at the kids. And that culture has sort of manifested. We haven't like led that, but I think one thing that I do think others maybe see from us is that Joey's he's a good athlete. He's good at baseball. He's good at basketball. He's a leader among his peers on those teams. And we don't have that like all or nothing intensity about us, about the sport, which I think does sort of, permeate out.
He's
Awesome.
he's gonna put the pressure on himself. You don't need to add that to it. And when kids, I mean, with a 6 and a 3-year-old, what I'm hearing like from the smaller kid side is they're not giving you a hard time, they're having a hard time. And for you to give them even more and pile on, like this kid missing a free throw, what are you doing? Like, shouldn't you support him? He probably feels horrible already. And I think about like if our kid spills the milk, a small little example, Greta drops butter on the floor or something. It's like, she loves butter. Look, Eric knows that. She'll eat butter.
She does love butter.
She's like, give me butter to eat. And she's a little sass. I mean, so like sometimes you do have to put a little bit of just, no, stop it, like that kind of thing. But if I'm like yelling at her for spilling, like, come on, like they're not even going to want to spill. They're going to walk around like on eggshells. That's that fear piece that you're talking about. So yeah, they're not giving you a hard time. They're having a hard time. And that's what the message I try to send myself when they do something, they fail. It's like, hey, be there to support them now. And that's, what else can you do?
Don't steal my struggle. I love that quote. I love that.
Yeah.
Don't steal my struggle.
We talk a lot about resilience, right? Because you're trying to build resilient kids. And that's just an awesome example, Paige. Thanks, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other questions. I just know you too well to throw out too much, but I was going to say so much, man. So thank you.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot from you. So,
I'd be curious. I think it's interesting sitting here that, Paul, you said you've got senior and sophomore in high school.
Yeah.
Yep. I've got freshman in 5th grade, and Beej, you've got 6 and 3. Those are 3 unique windows in life. And Paul, you're getting ready to send one off to college. I'm got one ascending into high school, which is an adventure you've been through. And DJ, you're looking ahead at all this. Like, Paul, when you think about one thing that Molly and I talk about all the time is like, we feel really good about 0 to 14 with Savannah. We've done a really good job. She's a great kid. She's confident. But we don't know shit about 14 to 18, and that scares the hell out of us. Yep. So, like, when you look at 0 to 18, what's your senior's name?
Carter. Yep.
Carter. So Carter's looking at colleges. He's going through that search. He's thinking about that next chapter in his life. And you and your wife are thinking about parenting that next chapter and sending the kid out to college. How does that sit with you, and where's your head at with that?
Yeah, I once again, I go back to kind of my the top 5 people I hang around with are other parents some people that have gone through that. So I look to the people that I admire, and I try to, look to how they're doing it and learn for that. But there's a lot that we don't know. You know what I mean? But I'm excited to do it with, I think you said a really key point is being an active partner. Like I know my wife's going to look at it differently than I am because it's also 4 hours away, but so me thinking like, oh, great, he's going to build up that resilience. Well, there's still going to be those moments where he's going to need mom. So there's that fine balance that we'll have to do. And I'm excited about it. And I use that vocabulary, purposely, because if I say excited rather than nervous, I mean, of course there's nerves and stuff, but I am genuinely excited because not only does he get the opportunity to go continue playing sports, but it's a good school, great education, all these different things that are wins. But that doesn't mean that there isn't going to be hardship. There isn't going to be some of those things. Brett, BJ, and I talk about it all the time, literally about the different stages of our kids, your kids, and then where BJ's are. Yeah. That literally, like, we try to say, this is what I experienced, this is what I learned, but I'm not saying that's the right way to do it or not. You know what I mean? Well, so what I'm trying to, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go. You finish up. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, so what I'm trying to do is look at the people that I admire that have gone through it within the last year. And we have some good friends that were part of, baseball and basketball teams, and watching them go through it and the struggles and the highs and lows of that, and trying to be a sponge, I guess, and learn.
Well, and then you've had, you think about household or family dynamics and the reality of that. Like we joke sometimes that like we had Savannah for 3.5 years where that was the family unit. And then it's been the family unit with Joey for the past 11 years. Well, we're going to have 3 years on the other side of that, where the family unit at home is Molly and me and Joey. Right. And so that's about to change for you from a square to a triangle, at least day to day. And that's an unknown. And what does that family framework look like?
What is that gonna? Yeah, totally. Those are all. But what you were talking about earlier about the excitement of you always wanted to be a dad. I really am excited about it because I think there's just a whole new opportunity to find out what this new opportunity looks like. What does that look like? I don't know, but I know that the core values and the structure is there. The base structure is there. That is in a healthy environment to figure it out. And so when we do make mistakes and we don't steal each other's struggles, I think we're going to be in a good spot. So,
yeah. And I think something that's core to it, especially in the window that you're in and moving it, like with the kids going away. And I think it's really easy to lose sight of this in the day-to-day of parenting, both for mothers and fathers. And BJ, you referenced it earlier of like the relationship between the spouses being like, the first thing your kids see, that they reference, that they build relationships off. How do you keep that a primary focus in your life and healthy? So when you get to a point where your kids go out to college, like that still exists and your kids have seen that all throughout their existence. That's like a daily struggle.
Guys, I'm trying to listen and also taking some mental notes as to what I would say to all this, because I've got the littles, right? In the 3 and the 6. And yes, Eric, I am not worried. I see you and everything you guys are doing going into high school. And Paul, I see everything with you having one leaving high school and going to the triangle up from the square. And the other day, I mean, like these things, I'm in, I was going to say I'm sitting in my bathroom. No, I'm standing in the bathroom. And I turn around and I look and I'm like, one of those rooms will be empty when one of these kids goes to college at some point. And those are them where the time is like, you can't stop time. You just can't. And I'm trying to cherish these moments with a young kid, and the little struggles that we're looking at right now with the 6-year-old is like, he's coming home and there's a couple kids at school that are, that he really likes, and it, like Lewis has got like this personality where he attaches to people and he just wants to be with them all the time. And he's kind of looking to them for a little bit of acceptance in a way. And I'm trying to tell him, dude, you got to be yourself. Like, if we were all like those two, if I was just like mom, I wouldn't like her. And he's like, well, I don't get that. What do you mean? So I'm like trying to be like, you got to be an individual, and I got to model that. And we talk a lot about modeling, Paul and I do, and Eric, you and I do. It's like they see that. And again, circling it back to that relationship that you have with your spouse, modeling that great respect, but also you're going to have those confrontations, and that's healthy. And those crucial conversations, as we call them. and understanding that sometimes people are going to get upset with each other, and that's just normal. And man, there's so much more. I could talk to you guys for like a couple hours here, guys. Like, this is just, yeah.
The only problem is Eric's on a layover, and so he doesn't have that much time. So I mean,
here,
this,
last thing.
go ahead.
Flexibility in parenting, where we moved to this neighborhood. I'll just say this from a small kid perspective. We moved to this neighborhood because down the street is an elementary school, and it was the best elementary school that we could find in South Minneapolis. And the whole time we're telling Lewis, yeah, you're going to go to that school. You're going to go to that school. You're going to go to that school. He doesn't go to 5 years later, he doesn't even go to that school. We drive him to school across the river. And that's where that flexibility is strength in a way, where you just got to leave your options open. So now when people are like, is he going to go there forever? Like the Montessori school? I'm like, he's going there this year. Yeah. And we're planning on him going there next year, but we don't know, like Paul, he could not like Augustana. He could want to transfer next year or something, Eric, Savannah was really into gymnastics for a while, and that changed. And that's that flexibility and that conversation with your spouse and with the kids. Yeah, I can stop my tangent now, but yeah.
I mean, you use the word resiliency,
guys. So thank you. Yes.
Yeah. You used the word resiliency earlier. I think, it's human nature to struggle with change or have some change aversion. And it's been interesting to watch Joey and Savannah and that. Savannah really, I don't know if I would say struggles, but she deeply reflects on her attachment to the way things are.
Yeah, sure.
And
that is so well said, by the way.
Yeah.
He's a
You're
poet.
Such a good dad.
He's a wordsmith.
And she considers what it means to change. And like we've had conversations about like, oh, should we move to a different house? No, like that is a non-starter for her. And we got a second dog, and she really struggled with the idea of getting a second dog. And we like tried to unpack, she was emotional, like upset about us even thinking about getting a second dog. And it turns out she's really concerned about like her cauldron of love that she had for the first dog, and being able to love the second dog as much, so a lot of course, metaphors in parenting in that, having a second child.
Sure.
But yeah, that's a great point, PJ. I think flexibility, you try to build that in to your family and to the kids' intuition.
Sure. Yeah. Routine's good too, though, I suppose.
That is true.
Yeah. It's a balance. Paul,
Yeah.
you want to take us home here, man?
Well, I was just gonna say, because I know, so Eric, you've lived up to every expectation that BJ has talked about, and now I'm just gonna use BJ on this podcast, man, because
perfect.
It's perfectly switched over. We're talking about the mullet, right? Yeah. No, I mean, first of all, you're a great first guest, and second of all, I'm actually a little disappointed because you're really good at this. Like, you're really good about talking to the point where you started interviewing Brett and BJ and I, and then at the end here, I'm like, boy, he's really good at this. So thank you for joining us in a layover on your way to your business trip, right?
What I didn't reveal, Paul, is I also am a podcast host professionally, where I host a podcast called the Quad, where I bring people from marketing and admissions on college campuses on to talk about their worlds and their lives. And I also did a fair bit of this in my journalistic career when I covered college football. So I love this kind of format. I think these conversations are awesome. And again, I've been listening to you guys. I think you do a great job at shedding light on things that maybe people don't talk about every day. I think it's great stuff.
Yeah. Well,
thank you,
I appreciate
Eric,
that.
again.
And yeah, go ahead.
No, that's it. I just say thanks, Eric. And yeah, you've been a big part of my life for a long time now. So I appreciate our friendship just as much as our family ship, if you will. So you're the man. Go get on your plane.
All right. Well,
Awesome.
Hey guys, I appreciate the opportunity to be on. Paul, great to put a face with the voice, and keep up the great work.
Hey, thanks a lot. Take care, man.
All right. See ya.
Talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Later.